it's about I got to say, it's the stupidest thing in sports.
Whoa, he has trouble with the snap, and the ball is free. It's picked up by Michigan State. Jalen Watts Jackson, and he scores on the last play of the game.
Ground ball, right side. Cabrera will cut it off. Galarraga covers. He's out. No, he's safe.
Phoenix has the foul, and a pinnacle ball throws it down.
DeBrincat gets it back to Gossett. Barron across now. King.
Say River. They score. Raymond.
Big Bob got to the throw, and it's caught by St. Gray for a first down.
This is BS Sports.
Hi. Welcome to the show. Today is January the 21st of the year of our Lord 2025. And I am going to remove any sort of introduction to the show that I typically do, and we are simply going to jump into this. Because what I witnessed on Saturday night was one of the most pitiful, pathetic, and laughably inexcusable performances on a national stage that I have ever seen from any sports team across every single league ever. Now, I want to start this by naming a few things that I simply do not want to hear from Lions fans. Point number one, we still had a great year. First of all, I don't care. You could have gone 17-0. If you lose in the playoffs in the first round, let alone get blown out, you didn't have a great year. So stop fooling yourself. Number two, we had injuries. You know, if I had a nickel for every time I got to hear about injuries, I'd be a billionaire. I'd be Bill Gates. We had injuries all year. That didn't stop us from winning 15 games and winning most of our games by double digits and having one of the best franchise records in the history of the NFL or in the history of the Lions and winning back-to-back division titles. Suddenly, the injuries become a thing when we lose. But we can never overcome them when we win, apparently. And point number three, we'll be back next year. Well, that's funny because I don't remember, for one, asking what you thought we would be back next year. But secondly, I didn't know you were a fortune teller and you knew the future because I was told that it was a sure thing. Of course, this Lions team would make the NFC Championship. I mean, they're the 1 seed. They're 10-point favorites. They're at home. ESPN Analytics says you got a 70% chance of winning the game. So don't give me the we'll be back next year. Ask the 49ers if they'll be back next year. Okay? Ask the Minnesota Vikings if they'll be back next year. Ask the Dallas Cowboys if they'll be back next year. There is no we'll be back next year because next year is its own year and it's going to have its own little struggles. And you don't know anything about what's going to happen next year. Moving along then. I will say this. This is, as I said before, undoubtedly one of the worst losses in the history of the Detroit Lions. Let me say it once more for the people in the back. This is undoubtedly one of the worst losses in the history of the Detroit Lions. It's on par as leaving Sterling Sharp wide open in the playoffs. Remember that? I don't. I wasn't alive. It's as bad as blowing the NFC Championship game last year, and it is, yes, as bad as the last time the team based in Washington murdered you in the playoffs. It is the pinnacle of Lions football, the way they lost that game. Every single stereotype and every single joke and every single generic opinion that if you asked anybody who doesn't know anything about sports what the Lions are, that game is exactly what they are to those people. So now, let's play the blame game, shall we? Who is most to blame? All right? We're going to start with the players. We'll get to the coaches in just a little bit because I got a lot to say about them too. Firstly, defensively, I just got to ask earnestly, does anybody want to keep their job? Literally anybody. You have the opportunity of a lifetime. You are starting in an NFL playoff game in front of everybody, national television, and you get 2 stops. One of them you got because Dan Quinn wanted to be cute and try to run a QB sneak with Marcus Mariota. The other one, it's nothing short of a miracle, the way you were playing. Outside of Alex Anzalone and Brian Branch, nobody on the defense looked ready. Nobody on the defense made plays. Nobody stepped up. It was a whole bunch of just letting them have it. You got how many 4th downs they let get them? You have chances to flip the game. Somebody can make a play on 4th down. Nope. Don't want to do it. Don't want to do it. Now on the offensive side, you already know what I'm going to talk about. Jared Goff played one of the worst games of football that I have ever seen him play in a Detroit Lions uniform, short of maybe the first few games he played when he got here, and his best receiver was, I don't even know. Was Marvin Jones on that team? I don't even know. I don't even, like me. That was when Tom Kennedy was his best receiver. Now, here's the thing, Jared. That team wasn't the 85 Bears. They weren't even, the Seattle Seahawks of the 2010s. Defensively, that team was mediocre at best. And you made them look like the 85 Bears. You made them look like the best defense in the whole freaking league. All right? Inexcusable turnovers. Absolutely, completely shattered in confidence. Not cool, not calm, not collected like he normally is. Completely out of his realm. And I don't care who you are. To quote the great coach, Jim Mora, I don't care if you're playing a college team, a junior college team, let alone an NFL team. If you turn the ball over 5 times, one of them for a touchdown, you are not winning a football game. Jim, what else do you have to say?
In my opinion, that sucked.
Thank you, Coach. In my opinion, that sucked. All right? I have been defending you. I have been praising you all year about being an MVP caliber quarterback, a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback, and you go out on national television and decide, you know what? I don't want to play football anymore. I'm just going to throw the ball to the guys in white. Inexcusable. Inexcusable. And I'm sure he knows it. Now, moving along to the parties whom I blame more primarily than the players even. We got the coaches. Aaron Glenn, I got to ask you a question. What do you do when your blitzes never get home against a mobile quarterback who is dicing your secondary up, which already just had another injury in the first 3 plays in Amik Robertson? What is it that you do? Do you, A, make an adjustment and stop blitzing like a maniac because it's not getting home? Or B, let's just blitz more. Make an adjustment. You want to be a head coach? You're going to have to change when circumstances are not going your way. These guys went out there. There was no strategy. There was no adjustments. You had guys running wide open by 30 feet on slant routes. You had screen passes that went for 1 billion yards because nobody knows how to tackle on this team. And I don't want to hear about injuries. We already talked about that. And what made it even worse is they actually did a pretty decent job running the football. They ran for 182 yards on you, something that this defense has always supposedly been good at. And don't give me no Aleem McNeil. You didn't have Aleem McNeil last 3 games. Teams weren't running all over you like this. All right? Just not the case. And don't give me that the corpse of Austin Eckler and who the hell else do they have on there? Brian Robinson Jr. are, Barry Sanders and Billy Sims. Okay? All right. Now, moving along to Ben Johnson. Ben, buddy, you're one of the top offensive coordinators of the league. You have made a name with running all these trick plays and ingenuity and utilizing every guy on the field so nobody expects what you're going to do. But Ben, you are down 10 points. It is the fourth quarter. Why are you running a trick play for your wide receiver to throw into triple coverage? What are you thinking? Do you not want to be here? Evidently not, because 2 days later, he's with the Chicago Bears. Maybe if your head was a little out of Chicago and more focused on Detroit, we wouldn't be having this kind of a conversation. Now would we, Mr. Johnson? Secondly, because you get 2 points, Mr. Johnson, the Commanders went into this game as the third worst running defense in the league. You have Jahmyr Gibbs, who is playing at an all-pro level and having one of the best stretches of games ever for a Detroit Lions running back. And you give him just 14 total carries, and on a 3rd and 1, where you have a chance to go up double digits if you score a touchdown, you run a pass play when Jahmyr Gibbs is running all over their defense. All over it. They couldn't stop him if they had 24 guys on the field. They couldn't stop him if they had their offense on the field as well as their defense on the field. That's how good he was doing. Goff was clearly rattled the entire game, yet you insisted upon having him throw the ball 40 times, regardless of the circumstance, regardless of the fact that we know that they have a terrible run defense. Can you please, anybody on this coordinator room, please make an adjustment? Anybody? Or are we just going to stick to running the old bundle-rooski, or whatever that stupid State Farm commercial is? Moving along, because the head coach is not without blame either. Dan, I love you. And and your coordinators, all right? They're your coordinators. They were lifeless. They could not make adjustments. The team looked confused. They had no confidence. They were playing not to lose, not playing to win, like they have all year long. In primetime games, you have always had the team prepared and ready for action. I have never seen this Lions team come out with such little poise and so unprepared. You had 2 weeks to get your mind set on what you wanted to do. All right? I know you only had a week to prepare for Washington because you didn't know who you were going to play. But damn it, this was not a good Washington team. This isn't some, we're not talking about some powerhouse team that ended up as a wild card, right? We're not talking about Minnesota, who won 14 games. We're not talking about that. We're talking about a team with a rookie quarterback, with a new head coach, with a new general manager, rosters filled with guys who have been in the league for some of them almost a decade, and you made them look like the greatest show on turf in your own house in front of God, your fans, and everybody. Every single person, from Sheila Hempford to Brad Holmes to the players on the field, should be ashamed of that performance. That was just inexplicable. Inexplicable. If you would have lost in the NFC Championship game to a really good Eagles team or to a feisty Rams team, I could have at least accepted, well, it was tough to get here. It's hard to win these games when you have so many injuries, especially at that point you would have been without Amik Robertson most likely. But to lose when you have everybody on your side, the media is on your side, the analytics are on your side, the players on the field are more talented on your side than on the other side. And yet, you did the exact thing that the Lions always do. They always get the hype. They always are told this is going to be different. This year's going to be the year where they finally break through. And damn it, I believe that was the case. And what happened? They went out there and they showed their rear ends to their fans. Absolutely inexcusable. And I am losing my fandom bliss. I'm losing my reason even to suggest that, well, okay, maybe next year this team can put it together. It's tough to come back from a loss like this. It's tough culturally. It's tough emotionally when you just came into this game thinking it was yours to lose. And well, guess what? You went out there and you lost it. And it wasn't like you didn't have opportunities to win it. You squandered them like you squandered every opportunity that this franchise has ever had. Every single one. From the blowout, from the terrible comeback when you were blowing out the 49ers last year, to the NFC Championship in 91 when you had Barry Sanders in his prime, to the countless years with Calvin Johnson. All of it. This is on the same level. And I'm not saying they're going to go back to just go being the same old Lions. I'm not ready to say that. But to act like this was not that is foolish. That's all I have to say about that. All right, let's get to the chat. All right. Oh my gosh. I want you guys to know that was boiling over for days. Obviously. I have been just fuming, even to the point where, like, every time I see NFL highlights, I get a little, like, uneasy feeling in the back of my spine, in my mind. So I'm gonna go over these chat messages. I'm gonna try to read some of these. I know obviously some of them were in the midst of the rant, so if I already acknowledged some of these points, I'm going to just move along. Mood not good? Yeah, that's one way of putting it. Have I recovered yet? See the previous 20-some minutes. As much as this loss sucked, we probably shouldn't have lost it. The NFC Championship was as far as we would go. Yeah, I said that. So the defense would have given up 300 yards to Saquon next week, regardless of how Goff played. Yeah, maybe. I mean, again, we've been pretty good against the run, but we certainly weren't able to stop Washington. 180-some yards on the ground. Believe in Goff. If you mean like to win a Super Bowl, yeah, I still think he can do it, but played a terrible game. He's got to avoid having 5 total turnovers. And I guess technically the team had 5 turnovers. I don't think Goff had 5 turnovers because Jamison Williams threw the interception. We did win when Goff had 5 turnovers. With our defense that stepped up and held the Texans scoreless the second half. That's true. Defense didn't step up. No adjustments were made. The adjustments were made in that game against Houston, where they just basically shut down C.J. Stroud for the entire second half. Plus people were making plays. You had Carlton Davis getting two turnovers, which granted didn't end up in any points, but it certainly ended drives for Houston. I mean, one of those turnovers stopped a touchdown, at least for Houston. Glenn, for as good as he's been, has refused to change up his scheme. It's true. Clearly what he was doing wasn't working. What's the risk of drastically changing the game plan? They score faster. In his mind, maybe it's, you abandon your principles, right? Like he believes in this system. He believes in what he's doing, but I mean, like, I don't know how you can believe in it when it's showing you right in front of you that it's not working. Teams coaching adjustments never happen. I said that throughout the MSU season, and now the biggest game of the year, the Lions coaches can't do it either. Yeah, I mean, to me, it was like they had an eye for what they wanted to do in this game, and I think the coordinators, I think the coaches, and I think to some extent some of the players thought they were just going to go into this game and they were going to win it by 10, and it was really not going to be much of a problem. Not only a pass play, but an empty backfield. This is a good point. Nobody was back there, so they knew that Goff was going to throw it too, which just means, oh, okay, let's, rush however many. I don't know. I don't remember how many they rushed. I don't know if it was a blitz. I know Graham Glasgow played a terrible game, which was what it is. Dave Phipp had a meltdown because the special teams was shit as well. I don't even remember any special team stuff. Trying to think. I mean, we punted like once. there's that. The kickoffs, I remember we just touched it. It was always touchbacks. We didn't get very good runs. We didn't get very good returns on kickoffs. I remember that. All three coordinators had a bad game. I know I already said, I'll say all three coordinators had a shit game. Yeah. From an outsider's perspective, Lions peaked too early. I need to know what you mean by that. Like in terms of like they won too many games and so they were due kind of thing, or I'm not really sure. So I hear that language and I don't really know. Like, I don't really know what to make of that. Like NFL coordinators rarely adjust in a game ever. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, some of the really good ones might make some sort of adjustments, or when you're basically the game is pretty far out of reach. Maybe I'm coping, but I think it was never meant to be this year. This team was simply too injured to win it all. Right. I made that point near the end. If you would have lost in the NFC Championship game, okay, right? You were out your best defensive player pretty much the whole year. You were out your second best defensive player on the line for the rest of that season. You didn't have Carlton Davis, who was a key offseason addition. Yeah, I could have at least emotionally been able to deal with that, although I would still be disappointed. It would have been bad. Does anyone else feel like the Ben Johnson hate is way overblown? It depends what you mean. I mean, I think his PR team could definitely use some assistance, because announcing that you're going to your division rival 2 days after one of the worst coordinated games you've had in the playoffs, yeah, that's not a good look. But I mean, he gave us one of the best offenses in Lions history, so I'm not gonna say that I hate him. Let's see. Let's read this one before I get to that other one, Derek. Well, we probably shouldn't have lost this game. We would have lost next week to the Eagles, probably giving up 50 plus. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to get 50 points. But like, I don't know. That Eagles passing game is not very good. That offense is Saquon and also Saquon. Because Jalen Hurts is not playing well, and he really hasn't played well pretty much the whole year. But yeah. So it was best for his family. He has 3 young kids. He was always picking Chicago over Jacksonville and Las Vegas, especially as places to raise a family. I mean, it's his personal choice. He's a professional. He can do what he wants, but PR wise, I just think it wasn't a very good look. I know you feel staying off the internet. Took me a day to watch. Look, I haven't watched any sports media except for I watched U-Tree's video, which was brutal. But he didn't offer any commentary. I watched like one division round like recap, one of those kinds of videos on I don't know if you guys have heard of Tub Frog. I find his content to be pretty good. But yeah, I have not listened to sports radio. I'm not gonna turn on 97.1. I listen to 97.1 fairly frequently. I'm not gonna do that. And Michigan State, yeah. I mean, Michigan State had a really good win basketball over Illinois the next day. But the Red Wings, yeah, that was rough. Right now, they're scoreless in the first period against Philadelphia. So, and the Pistons, yeah, the Pistons got a nice win on Martin Luther King Day. So, let's see. Only got a few more messages, and then we'll be back here. At least with the loss, we get slightly better draft pick. I hope Brad Holmes gets edge rush to pair with Hutch. See, the thing is, we still have Zadarius Smith, so he's a solid option to have on the other side. We see how well he does, or how well he did, I should say, with Myles Garrett on his other side. And look, Aiden Hutchinson, I think, can be as good as Myles Garrett on the defensive side of the ball. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously Smith is not getting any younger. He's already a bit older. But yeah, I think for sure we should be looking for guys on our defensive line, maybe even in the interior. I don't know how long we signed DJ Reader for. But I mean, like, we were without Pat O'Connor as well, so we were really depleted on the defensive line. Speaking of Glasgow, our O-line is going to need to be refreshed soon with how old all of them are, minus Sewell. Losing Fraley could really hurt a retool. Hopefully we get a good O-line coordinator. As far as the O-line goes, Christian Mahogany, I believe he was the highest graded player on the Lions during the game. He's had back-to-back really good games for the Lions against he did it against the Bears, and then he did it just on against the Commanders. So I think we might have found one with him. But yeah, definitely gonna have to look into the offensive line. Taylor Decker, you already re-signed. Frank Ragnow, you have not re-signed, but who knows how much longer he's got. Penei Sewell is probably the best offensive lineman in the league. I wouldn't mind picking up an offensive line at some point in the draft, but who knows? Hot take, Ben called a fine game. Lions fans just want to blame him because it's easier to hate on him instead of Goff. I don't know about that. Your coordinator's job is to put your offensive pieces in a good position. Obviously, Jared did not execute on many of those cases, but there was plenty of play calls in that were just completely like out of like I don't even know what the thought process was. MSU hockey won. Yeah, that's right. I don't watch college hockey, but I did see that. DC on a 3rd and 1 play. They had Wagner on St. Brown. Amon-Ra slipped on that play. That's why timing was off. Plus, Goff still fumbled. It's not Ben's fault. Goff threw a pick 6 and 3 other turnovers. I just don't know why you're running that play to begin with. I mean, that might be the rationale, but like, again, they have one of the worst run defenses in the league. You're not giving it to Jahmyr Gibbs on a 3rd down and 1 when he just like that very same drive. I think he just had like a 40-some yard run. So, like us to draft defensive end now and at least get him developed. And if something happens again, we have a better depth at the end. Yeah, you can never have too many of them. They're like relief pitchers. So, I'll trust whoever Brad Holmes drafts because he's a really good drafter. So, I'm sorry. Thank you, Michael Jackson stuff. I appreciate it. Hey, man, you're a Bengals fan. You know the struggle. Cat teams, we're just destined not to win Super Bowls. At least you have a very good future ahead. Look, I mentioned that at the beginning. Nothing is guaranteed. Who knows? Let's see. Peaked too early. Didn't play best football down the stretch. Defense allowed 30-plus points in 4 of the 6 games. First 12 games allowed 30 points 0 times. Okay. Yeah, now I understand what you're saying, Zingdad. Yeah, that's pretty much true. It's yeah. Let's see. Jeez, we got a lot of chat messages. We got other games to talk about, guys. It's fine. I'm fine with this. Is just like emotional. Everyone's just releasing their tension. But still on that play, why aren't you giving any hate to Goff? I'm not giving. I gave plenty of hate to Goff. Did you listen to the rant at the beginning? I said he had the worst game of his career and that it was he was terrible. He can't turn the ball over like that. Obviously, yeah. On the execution, it was terrible, but it's still it's putting your players in a good spot, right? Like, I'm upset because Goff turned the ball over, but if you just hand the ball off to Jahmyr Gibbs, a play that I think has a higher rate of success, then we're not even having this conversation, potentially. I mean, who knows? Maybe Jahmyr Gibbs gets stuffed. I don't know. Yeah, it was a bad game for Goff, ultimately. There it is. I'm not a fan, just love the show, and honestly felt bad for you guys. I never saw Detroit losing with Campbell as coach. You guys will be back. It's not over, just the beginning. You know what? First of all, let me appreciate you for saying you love the show. Really awesome to hear, man. I appreciate that. And yeah, I mean, we'll see if you're right, if this does end up just being the beginning. Obviously, plenty of really good teams have lost in the playoffs and have come back and bounce back from it, but we'll only see if that's the case. Lions letting James Mitchell and Jamar Jefferson go. They are only 3rd and 4th. They are the only 3rd and 4th Brad Holmes picks, no longer with the Lions. Yeah, it's crazy. And Chase Lucas and James Hughes. And both those guys were like 7th round picks. So it's like the fact that they're not with them is so Goff got a lot of hate from many people. I think there were people saying Goff couldn't win us a Super Bowl after Saturday. People just got emotional. Can't win a Super Bowl. McVay is literally a genius. He got rid of him for a reason. I just don't think that's true. I mean, like, this is like saying any really good quarterback can't win a Super Bowl because they haven't won a Super Bowl. And like, are we saying that about Lamar Jackson? Probably not. Are we saying that about even Josh Allen? I would imagine not. Like, he's gotten to a Super Bowl, which to me means he can win a Super Bowl. If you get there, then you can definitely win it. And if you're a really good quarterback, which Jared Goff is, there's no doubt in my mind that you can win it. You just can't have games where you turn the ball over 5 times. Well, 4 times. And then Jameson threw the interception. You just can't do it. I think, well, was it 4 interceptions and the fumble, or was it 5 interceptions? Or was it 4 interceptions and the fumble? Did I just say the same thing twice? Was it 3 interceptions for Goff, and then the 4th for JMO, and then the 5th was the fumble? Y'all see what I'm saying? No? Okay. Good talk. He scored 3 points in the Super Bowl, which is carried by Aaron Donald. I mean, like, again, he was up against a very good defense, and it's one game. I mean, he got them to the Super Bowl. Like, he led a game-winning drive in the NFC Championship game. So, it's like, I just don't understand the logic here. Like is one guy on a team, the fact that it's like saying, what's his name? Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on his name. Oh my gosh. Who's the guy? Oh my gosh, TJ Watt on the Steelers. Like, is he incapable of winning a Super Bowl because, like, I mean, like, he hasn't won one, and every year they go to the playoffs and they don't win it? Well, yeah, both defense were really good. That it was an uncharacteristic game where you just had bad offenses for both teams. I mean, Brady scored 1 touchdown that game. So, look, I don't really want to get into the debate of whether or not Jared Goff can win a Super Bowl, because obviously any player can. Like, is Jared Goff better than Joe Flacco? Because Joe Flacco won a Super Bowl, and even if you want to say that year was really good for Joe Flacco, Jared Goff has had plenty of years that are at least comparable to that. Worst quarterbacks have won it. We'll just say that. I think we can agree on that. Presumably. I hope we can agree on that. Well, they didn't win the game. See, this is the thing. You can't say the refs, like, yeah, that was a terrible call, but the game went into overtime. And you lost. So, we don't want to play the what-if game. I mean, like, how can you play the what-if game on the other end and say that the Saints absolutely would have won the Super Bowl that year, and then on the opposite end say, well, you can't play the what-if game for Jared Goff winning the Super Bowl? I agree he's the exception, but exceptions make the rule, right? Like, the fact that an exception can occur is still is a factor. I just, like, I don't have what evidence other than that he hasn't won it do you have? Just that he's played bad games at certain points? That is just not true. Oh, how did Stafford do, actually? How did he do in the playoffs? He beat a Minnesota Vikings team that was dead. You're welcome. And he lost in another snowball on the road in Philly, which he did before. So did Jared Goff. What? Stafford never won a playoff game in Detroit. Wasn't that before the new? Yeah, I believe it was. Yeah, but he didn't win the game. So, I mean, by this guy, look, Derek, I appreciate you for coming out to the show and participating, but look, we got to move on. All right, we're gonna move along. So, any further comments? We're gonna go from there. All right, so let's move along to the rest of the AFC, or the rest of the divisional round. So, we got to talk about Chiefs Texans in one of the most just brutal games of football to watch. I asked this question: Are the Chiefs just inevitable? Are they just the Thanos of the league at this point? They're out here. I heard a stat. I didn't know this. The Chiefs have not scored 30 points all year. All year. Okay, let me just run down their schedule, just for the sake of pointing out teams that they could have scored 30 points on. Okay? They played the Saints. Okay, terrible. They played the Raiders twice, obviously. They played the Panthers, and that was the one game they scored 30 points. They never scored more than 30 points. That was their highest scoring was when they played the Panthers on the road on a game-winning field goal. I remember that game. That's like, yeah, and the referees. I mean, my goodness. Look, I understand the quarterback is the most important position in any sport, right? It's your moneymaker. If you don't have your quarterback, you're screwed, right? I just like, oh, that's right. In overtime, did they play the Bucs? Oh, they did. So they scored. Yeah, okay. They scored 32 times. They never scored more than 30. That must have been the stat. Thank you, Mr. X. Like with Mahomes, it's like he's not having a good year, and yet they're just winning games. And then you have the referees out here calling penalties because defensive players are hitting each other. Like I watched that. I think it was the second one when Troy Aikman, nearly, blew a gasket. Like the two players collide with Mahomes, who's going down, but he's still an active player. He still has the football, and they hit each other. And then the flags come out, and I was like, what are they supposed to do? Like, this is the thing that fans and that players, most importantly, are constantly asking when they see these kinds of penalties. And this is the case in college as well as it is in pros. Obviously, in college, you have the targeting rule. But what is it that players have to do? Like, what are they supposed to? Because obviously, they can't, go high, right? Okay, sure, that makes sense. Even when I was a kid, they were teaching us to hit low, right? That's where, break the center of gravity, and they're down. But even now, there's people who will say, oh my gosh, it's a dirty hit, when he dives at his knees or he dives at his ankle. It's like, what are we supposed to do? Especially when we're dealing with a quarterback where guys are coming at him full speed. They want to make a sack. They want to, turn the ball over, what have you. They want to block the ball. Like, they're not going to just be like, oh, shoot, he's about to get rid of the ball. Let me just immediately stop from running, 20 miles an hour like a bat out of hell right at the quarterback, ready to kill him. Not actually, but you know what I mean. Like, I just don't know. And look, as far as the game goes, CJ Stroud, like, he was depleted in terms of weapons. That offensive line was just awful. I mean, you get sacked 8 times. I don't care who you're playing. If you get sacked 8 times, everybody on your offensive line's got to go. Every single one. Maybe the center can stay. I don't know. Whoever's the best one, whoever didn't allow one sack, that guy can stay. Or maybe who allowed the least amount of sacks. That guy can stay. But look, I think this is like one of the Texans are like the Lions if they didn't win 15 games. In as much as they were going into this offseason, or going into this season, I should say, pretty hyped up, a really good roster. They made massive upgrades with Steph Diggs and Daniil Hunter and Joe Mixon. And they just kind of came up short, and they ran into the Chiefs. Is this the second time they run into the Chiefs? Did they play them last year? I know they played the Browns and won that game, but I can't remember if they played the Chiefs last year. No, because the Chiefs played the Bills in the divisional round. Who did they play? Was it the Ravens? They played the Ravens. That's what it was. Now I remember. They played the Ravens, and they lost that game. But yeah, I mean, look, let me just run down. Like, your second best receiver was Dalton Schultz, who's your tight end. Xavier Hutchinson was getting catches. I don't even know who that is. Is he related to Aiden in any way? John Mechie, who actually is, maybe he's okay. But yeah, you didn't have Tank Dell. Your offensive line was in shambles. CJ Stroud was having a bad sophomore slump. Hopefully they'll be back next year, because I do like the Texans. They're kind of a fun team to watch sometimes. But yeah, that was a hard game to watch. I just say that. What are you worried about, Michigan? What are you worried about, buddy? I know that I'm a Spartan, as this can probably be seen there. But look, we're all Lions fans today. We're all hurting. Let's put our differences aside. We'll talk about the college football playoff national championship in a little bit. I have something to say, but not a whole lot. But anyway, what are you worried about, buddy? We'll talk about it. Bills and Commanders are the only hope to stop the 3-peat. I have no faith in I definitely, like, in terms of teams I have no faith in, it's the Eagles. The Eagles are the team that I'm like, this is just, like, Jalen Hurts has been bad. Nick Sirianni is a cartoon character. Saquon Barkley is the only thing keeping them alive. Like, I don't know. I can't trust him. Bigger issue is that some QBs, Mahomes, get more protection. This is true. It's true. Please make it consistent across all quarterbacks. They played the Ravens. Okay, yeah. Yeah, it's hard to make it consistent for all quarterbacks. Like, here's the thing, guys, and this is gonna sound conspiracy theory. This is gonna sound, psychotic, or even just, I'm just a KC hater or whatever. Love it or hate it, Patrick Mahomes is the biggest moneymaker in the league right now. Okay. He's in every single commercial. All right. He's sponsored by State Farm. He's sponsored by T-Mobile. He's sponsored by, everybody. Like, you could probably name me a brand, and there's probably a Patrick Mahomes commercial. Like, the league is all about making money. It's a business. It's no surprise there. And in the same way that they want to protect, their biggest money makers, i.e. the biggest market teams that are, going to draw in the most viewerships, the LAs, the New Yorks of the world, they're going to protect the players who are the biggest money makers. And for these owners, it's going to be the quarterbacks, and the referees are, granted, part-time employees. They know where their bread is buttered, right? Like, it's just a reality. I'm sure it's not conscious. Like, I don't think any referee is thinking, oh, well, I'll throw this flag against Mahomes, but I won't throw it against, CJ Stroud or Lamar Jackson or any of them. I think it's just like a matter of, incentives. And maybe even, to get real conspiracy theory on you, maybe the NFL is like, you know what? Let's get this crew on the Mahomes game because, they're pretty good at calling PIs and roughing the passers. They do it a little bit more likely. So let's get them on this game. That way we get Mahomes on the field for more, and that means more money because more highlights and more people watching those highlights and more ad revenue on our social media streams and more people watching the games and talking about it and more brands wanting to put him in the commercial. Think outside the box. Oh my gosh. Look, here's what I want, all right? Next Sunday in the AFC Championship game, I want the Bills to just murder them. And then I want CBS to have the guts to go to the Taylor cam. That's what I want. I wouldn't say New York, since the Jets have been a joker of the league for the past 14 years. The Giants haven't really done something. This is true. I guess I mean in terms of the biggest media markets, not necessarily the best teams. It's kind of weird because Kansas City is not a huge money market. This is a perfect point, Bacon Bombs. It's the Michael Jordan effect. If he gets the calls, he becomes hated and people watch. People I've seen this in the NBA too. Like, NBA fans are confused as to why viewership is down. It's a multitude of reasons. I don't want to get into too much of a tangent here, but I just want to say this. You don't really have a face of the league anymore. LeBron James kind of is, but the Lakers aren't very good, and LeBron James is old. So anybody who likes him is old, presumably, or at least older. And the other problem is nobody hates anybody. Who in the NBA do you really hate? Jason Tatum, I guess. But he's not hateable. He seems like a nice guy. He's just kind of, I don't know, normal. He's just a normal guy. That's what's so funny. The most hateable guy in the NBA right now is a normal dude. Whereas, I wasn't around during this time, but I can at least articulate the position. In the 90s, Michael Jordan, if you were a Bulls fan, you loved him. But certainly if you were a Pistons fan, you couldn't stand him. If you were a fan of pretty much everyone else in the league, you probably couldn't stand him. Right? Because if you were a Suns fan, you probably hated him. You probably hated all of it. Right? Now there's not really any rivalries. There's not really any dynasties. People like dynasties because it gives you something to hate. Right? LeBron and Steph Curry, dynasties. Well, I guess Steph Curry was the dynasty. LeBron won one game or won one series and didn't win anymore. That was something. It gives you something to hate, right? And the same applies in the NFL. And right now, with you had the Patriots in the 2010s. Everybody wanted to hate the Patriots. Everyone wanted to hate Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. And now it's the same thing with Kansas City. It's funny because these leagues are trying, and people hated the Warriors. This is true. Hatred drives a lot of the viewership for these things because it works in both ways, right? You have the fans of those teams who are going to naturally glob on, right? If you're a fan of the Warriors in the 2010s, right? your team is the best team in basketball and is winning back-to-back titles basically every year, right? Like, and then if you hate the Warriors, well, you want to watch them lose. So you'll watch the game. Like, this isn't news necessarily, but, you know, like, it's just like people don't want to accept the fact that actually when there's less parity, the league is more exciting. And this is the case for pretty much all leagues. Like, when you have, and this is the case for the leagues in terms of viewership. This is proven out. Some of the biggest time of parity in the NBA was the 70s. You know when the NBA had comparably bad ratings to right now? The 70s. Because there was nobody to hate. You didn't have Magic Johnson. You didn't have Larry Bird. You didn't have the Bad Boy Pistons. You didn't have the Pacers. You didn't have it. Like, you just didn't have these two teams or these three teams or whatever, or there's one player. You didn't have them all going at. And this, I'm using basketball because it's a pretty easy one to analogize to, but the same applies for the NFL, MLB, and NBA, right? When the Yankees were killing it in Major League Baseball, baseball was at its peak. Like the early or the 90s and the early 2000s, and then even in the 2010s, when you had, the Houston Astros there at the end there. Basically, if one really good team is dominating for a long time, viewership's going to go up. Hey, look, maybe the Dodgers are going to be that team. We'll see. Anyway, moving along to the rest of the divisional round. Let's talk this LA Philly game. So, look, it was mentioned earlier, Matthew Stafford. He did play a good game, but the problem is he was doing the typical thing that Matthew Stafford does. Plays from behind, puts up some big numbers, but he threw the ball 44 times. And, his QBR, for whatever that's worth, is 47.8. Ratings 97. It was a good game for him stat-wise. But, again, it's like you were down pretty much the whole game. Like, I don't even think they had a lead. And then Saquon, look, listen, all right. I don't want to say I told you so, but I told you, like, this guy is their entire offense. You know how many, like, Jalen Hurts, 128 yards, no touchdowns, sacked 7 times, all right? Terrible game. Terrible. Dallas Goedert, their leading receiver, a tight end, 4 catches, 56 yards. A.J. Brown, buddy, did you even play? 2 catches for 14 yards. Devonta Smith, 4 catches for 21. Did you even play? And then Saquon comes in with his 26 carries, 205 yards, and just murders the Rams. Just murdered. Yeah, this is true. Good, not great. That's a good way of putting it, Bacon Bombs. Yeah, I don't want to say, like, I'm surprised by his fall off. Basically, since that Super Bowl season, Hurts has just careened in his consistency. He's consistent. Actually, I shouldn't say consistency. His consistency has been pretty good. His play is what's bad. Like, he's consistently been not good. That's what's concerning. And look, they have a good enough run game that offensively they can make up for it. But look, I know it's easier said than done. But if you're a defensive coordinator, and you're playing the Eagles, like if you're, Dan Quinn's not the defensive coordinator, whoever the DC is for the Commanders, you need to watch every, like, Saquon play and find a way to stop him or at least limit him. If you can limit Saquon Barkley, you can beat the Eagles. Again, easier said than done. They won 14 games in the regular season and went 8-1 at home. So, yeah. Look, A.J. Brown, I'm just going to say this. There's a reason he hasn't stuck around with one team. I know this is only his second team, but the fact that now it's starting to feel like he's seemingly forcing his way out here again, it's like, okay, maybe it's you. maybe it's you. You start good, and then things kind of die off, and yeah. Oh, gosh. Don't even. I don't have anything to talk baseball today, Detroit fan, but I love angry Detroit fan. That's a very nice profile picture you have there. I like the angry eyes over the Spartan helmet. Yeah. So, yeah. But anyway, yeah. Eagles, their entire team is Saquon Barkley, and they got a good defense. Obviously, when you sack a quarterback 5 times, that's pretty good. Wait, do we have the Dodgers in opening day? Oh, that's not good. Oh, that sucks. Oh, we're gonna get destroyed. We better sign Alex Bregman, man. We better. If we're going back with this offense again, boy, you better hope that Trey Sweeney is Derek Jeter. That's all I'm saying. You better hope. Anyway, so we got to talk about this game. Now, many people were saying that the Lions-Commanders game, that was maybe the best game in the divisional round. Now, of course, I'm biased. I do not think it was the best game. But if we were to meet a happy medium, the Bills-Ravens, I think, delivered. This was a game that came down to the wire. I think both quarterbacks, were not amazing, but they made some plays and kept the game interesting for sure. I mean, Josh Allen did not play a very good game, at least by his standard in terms of touchdowns and yards. 127 yards, no touchdowns. Lamar Jackson had the yards and the touchdowns, but geez, man, I mean, playoff Lamar at a certain point, it really is just sort of who you are. Like turnovers, sacks, like just bad. Like I don't. It sucks because here's the thing. I want to love Lamar Jackson. A lot of people, maybe when I point this out and I get angry with Lamar, maybe people think that I just hate Lamar, that no, it's not that. Okay, I want to love Lamar. And this is a relationship I've had with Lamar Jackson for many years. Every time that I feel like, okay, Lamar, this is your moment. This is the time for you to show the world. And he does that. Josh Allen did run for 2 touchdowns, but passing he didn't have it. He did run for a couple of touchdowns but it was like goal line, so it was like okay, like wasn't like he ran for 20 yards total, but 2 touchdowns. Hey, it's the only touchdowns you had, so you got to get them somehow. Not the only touchdown because Ray Davis. He also had How did Ray Davis have more touchdowns than Khalil Shakir? How did that happen? Or James Cook? It's weird. Like the Bills, outside of Allen, you look at their offense, it's not really a lot of superstar, high caliber guy. I mean, who's the biggest name on their offense? Is it Shakir? I guess. Amari Cooper? People forgot about him. I think the Bills might have forgot about him. He only got 1 target. Dalton Kincaid? Keon Coleman? Former Spartan? No? Anything? But no, I think the thing that we got to talk about, though, about this game is the ending. All right, here we go. You're driving down the field. All you need is a touchdown and a 2-point conversion, and you're back in this game, tied up. Now, granted, the Bills would have had the ball back with a little under a minute and a half. So they would have had a chance to walk the game off anyway. But Lamar Jackson, under pressure, rolling around, finds a wide open man. It's a touchdown. Oh my gosh, they're going to do it. Now, what does John Harbaugh have up his little bag of tricks? He pulls it out. Jackson gets the snap, rolls to his right, sees his tight end, Mark Andrews, throws a perfect ball, and he drops it. I got to tell you, I thought the Lions' loss was bad. They would have lost that way. I don't know if I'd be able to do the show. And doing this show was tough. But that was terrible. It'd be one thing if it was like maybe the ball was a little high or a little low or he had a defender on. Wide open. It's right to you in your bread basket. All you got to do is scoop it up. There are guys in the crowd that probably could have caught that football because it wasn't like it was a dart. I disagree. That ball was right on him. It wasn't like, he could stand there and go like this, but it was not an uncatchable football. When it's in your hands, when you're like this on the ball and it just bounces off of you, that's not on the quarterback. That's on you. That's on you. Of course, every pass could be better. There's no doubt about that. but 9 times out of 10, you got to catch that football. I don't know. I think he got a little bit lower. I don't know. We'll agree to disagree, Bacon Bomb. We'll agree to disagree. I think that's more on Andrews than it is on Jackson. But regardless of who it's on, the fact is, you had the game. This was the game. If Andrews would have had just one catch in the game, that was the one he had to have. He could have dropped a million balls before that. But wow, it paid off. The game, the matchup was, I think, a really entertaining game. Both those guys, Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, very good quarterbacks. Finally, the Bills get themselves into the AFC Championship game. They're 1 win away from a Super Bowl, their first Super Bowl since, 95? Was it 95? What was the last one they lost? Because or maybe it was 94. It was 91. I know they lost, but they also lost 90 though, right? They lost to the Giants, they lost to the Redskins, they lost to the Cowboys twice. So that's 90, 91, 92, 94, 93. I don't know why I jumped to 94. Maybe it was 93. I don't know. Whatever year it was, however long it's been a long time for Buffalo. And I'm 100% rooting for them to win it all of the 4 teams left, for sure. But I think an incredibly entertaining game. Incredibly entertaining. Oh my gosh. The Red Wings are still tied 0-0. And never mind. It's 1-0 Philly. I should not have said anything. Was that Matvei Michkov? Was that the Russian? Oh my gosh. We're really about to lose 3 in a row. The McClellan era is not doing too hot right now. Was that Michkov? I think that was Matvei Michkov. I think. I can't see. Yeah, that was definitely Michkov, right? I can't see the name. I can't see the name on the jersey. No, it was not Michkov. I thought it was Michkov. It was not Michkov. Time to fire another coach. How many times can we do this? How many times can we get the new coach bump? Farabee. Farabee who had the goal. All right. So I didn't technically put anything else on the show sheet, but I forgot to put on the national championship game. So, look. I just gotta say this. All right. Was that another goal? Okay, no. It was just the Lions saved it. Okay, I got nervous. I just gotta say that. So, going into this game, I said, basically, this was a lose-lose for Michigan. Although, if there was a bigger loss, it would be Ohio State winning. Now, I'm only saying this because there's really nothing. I got no opinion on either of these teams. If anything, I think it's kind of funny that Notre Dame and Ohio State ended up being the teams to make it to the championship game, because if you would have said 3 years ago, or if you would have lived by the rules of 3 years ago, I don't think either of these teams would have even made the playoffs. Maybe Notre Dame, maybe, but it would be a tough sell. It'd be a really, really tough sell. Now as far as the game goes, it was really not entertaining. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. The final score, it was an 11-point game, but the game was over at the half. I mean, 21-7 at the half, and then it was 31-2. I think it was 31-7 at a certain point, and then Notre Dame started to score some garbage time touchdowns, made it look a little bit closer. Look, Ohio State, they lost a game to Michigan and were turned into this. I mean, or rather, what I should say more accurately, they were always this. But for whatever reason, they just tripped on themselves in that Michigan game. And I think unfortunately for the rest of the college football world, everybody basically just thought, oh, okay, they're done. They're just going to fall over and die. But they used it as a rallying cry. It was similar to, I'm sure Michigan fans are going to love this. Similar to when, the whole Connor Stallion stuff started to break for Michigan, where, something that you thought could be used against you, where it's like, oh my gosh, it's so embarrassing. Our coach is getting suspended. We got this crazy guy with a 1 billion-page manifesto talking about how he's going to take over. Like, oh my gosh, we look so bad. Are we sure we're really that good? And it became a rallying cry. It became a rallying cry in this way for Ohio State. Like, they get exposed in their house. Michigan plants the flag. Fight breaks out. You think, okay, Ohio State's just, they got Michigan on the mind. They're not thinking of bigger things. Reality is they were thinking of bigger things. They were thinking of being national champions. And look, for me, as a Spartan, I got to say, I do love that Michigan can't even have 1 year of having that national championship to rub in Ohio State's face. Like, they don't even get that. They get a singular season, basically, to have that. And then Ohio State's like, no, we'll just win it. And now we have the more recent national championship. And they did it in a 12-team playoff, which you might say is more difficult, presumably. But the thing I had about the college football playoff, though, regardless of the Michigan stuff, because I'm tiresome. I don't want to have to bring it up and, just start yelling at each other for no apparent reason. I wanted to talk about the 12-team playoff in and of itself. Was this experiment worth it? And I kind of mentioned this going into the Final Four, but I think now that it's completed, we have a winner, all that stuff. We get to see all those games. Was this a success? Because I think a lot of people online, generally speaking, had a pretty positive opinion of it. Now, I'm going to go kind of one at a time here, at least one round at a time, and kind of rank it in a way. Like, the first round, terrible. All right? I think everybody agrees the first round of this college football playoff, terrible. And maybe that's because 12 teams is just a little too much. There just isn't 12 teams that realistically can compete for the national championship. Tennessee did not belong. SMU did not belong. Indiana, fun story, but unfortunately they just did not belong. Clemson did not belong. None of those teams belong, basically. The second round, the quarterfinals, where you actually had the actual bowl games or actual neutral site games, a similar-ish story. Georgia, they didn't have a quarterback. It was pretty much a bad spot for them. They were down a quarterback, even though they had just won the SEC. It was a tough way to get it. And plus, you had, obviously, the horrible tragedy, which is out of the control of anybody, that happened just before the game. So you had to delay the game an extra day. So the product of the game, I don't think, was particularly well because, guys were probably really poised, ready to play. And then, tragedy strikes, and there's no way to control that, obviously. The Boise State-Penn State game was terrible. Again, this was a blowout. Penn State murdered. Even Ashton Johnson, one of the best running backs coming out of college football, he didn't even really have an amazing game. Ohio State murdered Oregon. That was just a surprise. Like, it was a bad game, but it wasn't, it was the only reason that was even memorable was that it was like, oh, I didn't expect that to happen. Because Oregon was the 1 seed and they were undefeated going into that game. So now the best game, I think, and this probably goes throughout the entire playoff, was the Texas-Arizona State game. You get this double overtime, the crazy comeback for Arizona State, almost beating Texas. I really thought watching that game live they were going to do it. But man, like that, it was tough to see them lose. But it was probably the most entertaining college football game I've seen in a very long time. Certainly one of the most entertaining playoff games the college football has ever put out. And they put out a few. I'm not trying to totally disparage the playoff. But all that being said, we get to the Final Four. So presumably, Final Four, these should be, in theory, the 4 best teams. You have Notre Dame beating Penn State. It's a closer game, but it was just kind of a boring game from what I really remember. It ended up being just a three-point lead or 3-point win for Notre Dame to go to the national championship. But I gotta feel like most people, and maybe I'm totally off base here, most people did not think Penn State was going to win that game. Like, everybody was just like, all right, James Franklin, the moment is going to be too big for him at some point. And lo and behold, it was. It was the Final Four. But it did buy us being Big Ten fans, 4 more years, roughly, of James Franklin. So, it works for me. And then the Texas-Ohio State game. This game was pretty entertaining, I'd say. It ended up being a little bit further away, but it was a pretty close game throughout. This was probably the most Final Four-ish looking game of the two. And yeah, that Jack Sawyer scoop and score, that was incredible. That was amazing. I do wish the game would have been a little bit closer near the end there, but I still think it was a highly entertaining game. Very, very good stuff from both those teams. And then, of course, you get the national championship game, which was a blowout, and I went to bed at the half. Not at the half. I went to bed around the midpoint of the third quarter, around when it was 31-7. I think it was 31-7 at one point. Again, it wasn't a particularly memorable game. The first drive of Notre Dame, I was like, wait a minute. Is this actually going to be a really historic game? Is Ohio State going to blow this? And then no, they were not. So yeah, still, overall, it wasn't terrible. It probably would have been better if you just did 8 teams, maybe. Just gotten rid of the first round there. It left the first round really left a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths, myself included. The rest of the games, you had a lot of blowouts, a lot of games that just really weren't much, and you had games that were surprisingly good, like the Texas-Arizona State game. But overall, I just to me, and again, this is just me being old school, I guess. I just don't really want a playoff in college football. And I know maybe that's an unpopular opinion, but I would just much rather you have, number 1 and number 2 team in the country. They play in the national championship. Injuries aside, that's just what it is. You have Oregon and Georgia going at it. Would it have been the best game? I don't know. Probably not. Oregon probably would have blown them out because Georgia was dead at that point. But look, I think a lot of people thought that Oregon was going to beat Ohio State or that, Texas was going to blow out Arizona State. You never know. The point is you have an objective marker. Obviously, a lot of people want to change the seedings. They want to fix, who's playing who and how you get to where you are. I just don't think you're really going to ever perfect something like this because college football, we're talking about 100+ teams playing for the same national championship. That's not anything like any other professional sports league. So to treat it like it's the NFL, it's just not going to work. One of the reasons that, for example, March Madness works in college basketball is because, for one, it's 68 or 64 teams? I think 68 counting the plan. So that's about half of the teams in the same, division, right? Same level. And basketball is just a much more volatile sport. It's obviously single game elimination, so that goes without saying. But it's a much more volatile sport, right? One guy can just go off and shoot, 3 for or shoot, 7 for 10 from 3, and that's 21 points, right? That. It's a game more cohesive when it comes to creating upsets, creating unexpected wins. Did anybody really think that, for example, Arizona State was going to beat Texas? Whether or not you thought the game was going to be good is a different question. Because obviously I don't think anybody thought the game was going to be good. But did anybody think they were going to win? Probably not. I mean, you can look at the spreads that Vegas puts out for what that's worth. A lot of these games were not expected to be particularly close. And again, they can be wrong. It's all a huge thing. Look, my whole point is this. I think the heart is maybe in the right place for college football to try to do something different, try to emulate how the NFL is structured. But I think the more you kind of fall away from what college football was and what a lot of people who grew up with it, didn't grow up with this. And a lot of people that the love for it came from, the Big Ten and the Pac-12 playing in the Rose Bowl, for example, and the national championship being the top 2 ranked teams, and all that stuff. I don't know. I know it's not necessarily a popular opinion, but it is my opinion. And I can only give you my opinion. I can't give you other people's opinion. I guess I can. I can find them. Somebody can give me their opinion. I can just read it. But, it's not what we do on the show. So, what do you think? If you like the college football play, let me know. I don't know. I thought it was okay. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. I thought there were some really good games. Texas, Arizona State. Texas, Ohio State. Thought those were really good games for the most part. But then there was a lot of games that I was just totally out of in like the second quarter. Most of them, actually. Like if you a grand total, most of them I was just not particularly interested in. But yeah. Let's see. I want to read a few of these comments before we get to the NFC or the conference championship picks, because that's not really going to take all that long. Maybe for the Commanders, not sure yet. Jaden looks good, but it looked like he was trying to throw the ball so hard on short throws. He was throwing low on the close ones, throwing perfect long ball. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I can root for anybody in that game. Like, I when I see the Commanders, I just get angry. I just get upset. So, in a way, I don't want them to win, but in another sense, that franchise has suffered for a pretty long time. I guess I'd rather they win over the Eagles because I can't stand the Eagles, but maybe the scar is just a little too, still kind of hurts, kind of thing. Just like the Michigan State Notre Dame rivalry, the Michigan Notre Dame rivalry is kind of dead, and for the same reason MSU Notre Dame is suffering from the lack of playing. Yeah, like older Michigan fans probably hate Notre Dame, but new Michigan fans, I don't think they really have an opinion on Notre Dame. And look, to be fair, like Notre Dame is as much to blame for the lack of playing Michigan or Michigan State as Michigan and Michigan State are. I never really hated Notre Dame, even when in the heyday of the 2010s when Michigan State, the fake field goal and all that. I never really was like, I don't know, like to me, there's only so much room for a certain amount of rivalry, right? Like for Michigan State, it's Michigan. Like you're not really going to be able to insert another without basically it just forming naturally, right? Like for Michigan, it's pretty hard to add on to Ohio State and Michigan State. Like who else are they going to be rivals with? Georgia? Maybe. Like they never the only time they played they got murdered. So maybe Alabama because they've beaten them the last couple of years. Yeah. So there's only I just don't know that there's enough. Like I know they were trying to do it with Penn State. It's like I don't really mind Penn State. I don't like James Franklin, but that's only because he's annoying. Like it's not because it's like if he was the coach of Saginaw Valley State, I'd probably still hate him. I don't know how I would find a way to hate him, but yeah. So let's see. MSU Notre Dame was yearly, and now we haven't played this since 2017. Yeah. Same with Michigan though. Michigan fans trying to make excuses on why. Oh, okay. I see you didn't finish it. Trying to make excuses on why Ohio State winning means nothing. This is true. Many such cases. We'll just say that. Many such cases. 2026, we start a home and home series against Notre Dame. Oh. We play Notre Dame next year? Like in football? Really? Football schedule. 2025. I guess, yeah, it wouldn't be next year, it'd be the year after. So, let me see. 26. Yeah, we do. We play at Notre Dame. They even have the date. Really? We play them in September. That's crazy. We got Western Michigan next year. And the Penguins. Youngstown State, the Penguins. What a terrible name for a team. The Penguins? The flightless birds? Why would you want to be the Penguins? Of all the birds, I'd rather be like the flamingos. At least they can fly. And they got long legs. Have you seen penguins? They're like goobers. Why are they the Penguins? Who selected that? Let's see. Youngstown State, the Penguins. Okay. NCAA.com article about this from a couple of years ago. Here's the true story about how Youngstown State got the nickname Penguins. There are reportedly two competing stories for how the university adopted the nickname, and they both reportedly started on the same night, according to Youngstown State's athletic website, January 30th, 1933. What a year that was. The first and most widely accepted origin story says that when Youngstown State was playing on the road against West Liberty State Teachers College, wait, what? Against West Liberty State Teachers College in men's basketball on a cold night in West Liberty, West Virginia, in West Liberty, West Virginia, where either the opposing head coach or a fan in attendance, there are conflicting stories, saw the players stomped on the floor and swing their arms in a manner similar to penguins. The Jamber, Youngstown State's student newspaper, reported in a story published in 2017 that the bus used to transport the team wasn't heated, and, quote, by the time they got there, they were frozen stiff. Quote, they got into the locker room and it was unheated. Youngstown State alum and library operations supervisor Brian Brennan told the Jamber. They suited up and went out on the court and they were jumping around trying to keep warm. The school didn't have an official nickname at that point in time, and the nickname Penguins reportedly gained popularity among the fan base. There's a second story. The other origin story for the school's nickname, which once again reportedly happened on the same night. The town of West Liberty, West Virginia, reportedly received between 1 and 2 feet of snow on January 30th, 1933. And during the snowy drive to the game, some fans were discussing potential nicknames of the team. Someone suggested Penguins, and it was reportedly well received. And once the car arrived at West Liberty, its occupant suggested it to others in the gym, where it also received support. However, neither of these stories are true. What? Well, not completely true, because at the very least, they didn't happen on the same day that some Youngstown State lore says they have. Oh my, how long is this article? Oh my gosh. Wow. That's a very long article. This is fascinating. The Penguin. I don't know how you settle on that. Like, it's 1933. You could just change things and nobody's going to yell at you. There's no social media in 1933. There was nobody saying, I've been a Youngstown State fan since I was 8 years old. And maybe some people were saying that. But I will never not call them the Penguins. They're the Penguins for life. Now they are the Penguins for life. Now you can't change it. Right? It's like, you can't even, it's like, even with the, like, even with like the, the Indians and the Redskins, it's like, that's just kind of their name, like people can say, oh no, now they're not that, like, yeah, officially they're not that. And, most people are going to call them by the new name, but it's like, yeah, but it's the Redskins, it's like, they're wearing this, they're Washington, they're using the same, like, they didn't even try to really rebrand. Like, if it was a completely new team, like new colors, new everything. I guess they had new uniforms, kind of, but like they barely changed. And the same really goes for the Guardian. Like, they just kind of changed the C a little bit, and they had the G with the wings and the baseball. That's actually not a bad logo. Not gonna lie. At least different. It's at least better than like letter, which is most teams in the MLB. Just like, what's your logo? C. Like, from Aggies to Spartans. See, like, that at least makes sense. Like, Aggies were an agricultural college, and then Spartans, I don't know, because Spartans are cool. I will give colleges credit, though, because they do have the most, like, unique names for the most part. Like, there's no other Wolverines. There's no other Spartans. At least in pros. There's other Wolverines and other. Actually, I don't know if there's other Wolverines. There's other Spartans. But like college teams, like they have the more unique names. Like pro teams, there's never gonna be a pro team named the Buckeyes. Like that's just not gonna happen. But yeah. So anyway. Well, all right. We're at that point in the show. So we're not gonna do the music or anything, but we will talk about this. I just realized I shouldn't have closed out the games here. Hold on. NFL schedule. Here we go. Okay, here we go. So normally we do music for the picks, but because there's just 2 games, I'm not going to turn on the music, and it's going to be an untraditional section of the picks, right? We're going to actually kind of look at these games in something of a, in-depth way. Look at the analytics, look at who's favored, stuff like that, instead of just like going off the cuff. So, yeah, let's just get it started. All right, so Sunday afternoon, 3:00 on Fox, the Commanders heading to the division rival Philadelphia Eagles in a game where Philadelphia currently, as we stand now, according to ESPN Bet, -6 favorites, straight up, no hook. The over-under on this game is 47.5. I don't know what, I'd probably take the over. Well, yeah, I take the over. Well, yeah, no, I take the over because Jaden Daniels can score some points and Saquon Barkley. But I don't know. I'm not a bettor. I'm not telling you how to bet. The analytics on this game give the Eagles a 63.7% chance of winning to the Commanders' 36.3. Looking at it stat-wise, Jalen Hurts has not had a particularly great year. He hasn't turned the ball over too much, only 5 interceptions, but he's only got 18 touchdowns. He's got less than 3,000 total yards. Jaden Daniels, on the other end, easily the rookie of the year, probably one of the best quarterbacks in the NFC right now. 25 touchdowns, 9 picks, really good stats for a rookie. Really good on his feet as well. He's the leading rusher in Washington. He's got almost 1,000 yards on the ground with 6 touchdowns as well. But on the other end, Philadelphia has a beast, has an animal, and his name is Saquon Barkley. 345 carries, over 2,000 yards, 13 touchdowns. And in the past couple of games in the playoffs, he's murdering people. He just ran for over 200 yards and 2 touchdowns on LA in a snow game. So, look, this game is going to be close. Like, I just experienced this as a Lions fan, all right? If Philadelphia thinks they're just going to go into this game and just walk all over the Commanders, it's a division rivalry, right? These are 2 teams that do not really like each other. It's their 3rd time actually meeting. I'm sure the Eagles remember that walk-off winner that they lost because Jalen Hurts got hurt and Kenny Pickett was Kenny Pickett, right? But this is not going to be a cakewalk for either of these teams. Jaden Daniels can make big plays. Terry McLaurin is a very good wide receiver. De'Ami Brown is really starting to turn it on, and Zach Ertz and Austin Eckler and some of those veteran guys, they're putting together some good football as well. I am going with my heart, and my heart says the Commanders are going to go into Philly, and they're going to shock the world and go 3-0 on the road in the playoffs and go to the Super Bowl. The last time the Commanders, then the Redskins, won in the playoffs or won in the NFC Championship game, it was against the Lions, and they won the Super Bowl. So the last time that the Washington football team beat the Detroit Lions in the playoffs, they went on to win the Super Bowl. I don't know if they're going to do that. We'll have to wait until next week. But I do think they're going to go into Philly, and I do think that they're going to win this game because there's no way that Nick Sirianni is going to get bailed out by Saquon just running all over. Now, granted, with a very terrible run defense for Washington, they're going to have to hope that Jaden Daniels just lights it up. And this team doesn't know that they're led by a rookie quarterback. They don't know that they're not supposed to be there. And I can't believe in the Eagles. I refuse. On principle, I refuse. Give me the Commanders. Moving along. All right. The Bills and the Chiefs. This is probably going to be the game of the year, if it wasn't already. Looking at the spread, Kansas City -2 point favorites on ESPN Bet. 2 straight up. So less than a field goal point favorites, which to me means it's a 50-50 game. The over-under is set at 47.5, which I believe is the same. Yeah, it's the exact same as the Eagles-Commanders game. The win probability, according to ESPN Analytics, puts Buffalo with 54.6% chance of winning to Kansas City's 45.4. Looking at the passing and rushing leaders, I didn't even look at the receiving leaders for the Commanders-Eagles. Terry McLaurin, A.J. Brown. Moving on. Josh Allen having easily one of the best seasons he has had, probably his best season writ large. Well over 3,500 yards, 3,731 total yards, 28 touchdowns, just 6 interceptions, which is crazy because the interceptions have always kind of been part of, he can always, he has that, possibility to do that. And the fact that he's putting this little interceptions with a wide receiver room that is really not all that loaded is pretty impressive. Patrick Mahomes, on the other hand, not having a very good year. In fact, having probably one of his worst years. Although in terms of total yards, 3,928 yards, 26 touchdowns, but 11 interceptions. I don't know if this is the first time he's gotten double-digit interceptions. I don't think it is, but obviously double-digit interceptions is not ideal. On the rushing side of it, this is where it gets a little one-sided. James Cook has been great. Over 1,000 yards, 16 touchdowns. Very, very good running back. Not, top of the league, not Saquon Barkley, but a really competent running back and a really solid weapon for that Bills offense. On the other side, Kareem Hunt. Yeah, Pacheco's hurt, so they got Kareem Hunt. Remember him? He's still playing. Got 728 yards, 7 touchdowns. That's not bad. Not bad. 200 carries, So, not bad. On the receiving end, Khalil Shakir, pretty good. Not amazing, but pretty good. 821 yards, just 4 touchdowns, 76 catches. Probably their best weapon. You can definitely find ways to get open. Definitely make plays, make big plays. So, yeah, he's a very, very, very scary wide receiver. I mean, as a Lions fan, I saw him hurt me. He actually didn't do that much in that game. But on the other end, you have Travis Kelce. Now, the overall numbers for Travis Kelce, 97 catches, 823 yards, and 3 touchdowns. You're thinking, okay, I mean, it's like not amazing. It's very similar to Khalil Shakir. The only thing I'll say about it is this. Travis Kelce in the playoffs becomes Travis Kelce of like 5-6 years ago, basically. He just becomes old Travis Kelce. He becomes this elite, unstoppable guy who is always wide open, who gets yards after the catch, who breaks tackles, who makes big plays. He is a threat. He is easily the best offensive player the Chiefs have because outside of him, Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy, the rookie, I guess, maybe. But no Rashee Rice, no Isaiah Pacheco. This Chiefs offense is one of the worst in the league in red zone, in yards per game, in points per game. They're just not very good. The Bills defensively are, questionable. They have sometimes put on some good defenses, but they're not amazing. All right? They're not, they're not the 85 Bears. We'll put it that way. The Chiefs, on the other hand, are very good defensively. And this is what is going to favor them because this game, unfortunately for the Bills, is in Arrowhead, a place in the playoffs where Josh Allen has failed to win. He's never won in Arrowhead in the playoffs, I don't think. This is going to be the biggest benchmark moment for Josh Allen. Can you get over the hump? This Chiefs team is not good. I know they're the back-to-back Super Bowl champs. I know they went 15-2. I know they went undefeated at home. And I know they're coming off of a win in the divisional round against the Texans. But I just, like, every time I watch them, it's like I'm just waiting for the bottom to fall out. Like, I'm just waiting for, the offense to just completely stifle. I'm waiting for the defense to give up a big play and just not be able to get back from it because the offense is just not good. These teams did meet in the regular season, and the Bills did win. And for that very reason, I'm going with the Bills. I'm taking the road team in both the conference championship games. Don't say I'm not a risk taker. But look, I just think this Bills team, this is a mission. They want to finally finish the job. They want to get over this hump. Josh Allen's playing at an MVP level. I just, call me crazy, but I do just think the Bills are going to finally get it done. And you will have a Super Bowl 1991 Super Bowl rematch between the Buffalo Bills and the Washington Commanders. And those are your conference championship game picks. I don't have music, so I don't have anything to turn off, but that's the end of the clip. Yeah, basically. Outside of once Hill got traded, Kelsey sort of became the best weapon there. But yeah, I mean, unfortunately for Kansas City, Kelsey's not getting any older, or not getting. He is getting older. He's not getting any younger. Let's see. Rice is okay, but he might be a wide receiver 3 on teams with multiple receivers like Detroit, Minnesota, Philadelphia, etc. I don't know about wide receiver 3. I'd agree with wide receiver 2. If he's wide receiver 1, your offense is probably not that good. Which I think honest Chiefs fans would agree. Like he's good, but he's not, he's not Tyreek Hill. He's not Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's not, he's not some of the top receivers in the league. He's not Justin Jefferson. Not that there's a lot of guys like that in the league, but I think you understand. All right, well, that's pretty much the show. So, obviously, with the season with the Lions season done, not going to be any weekend live broadcast reactions. So, obviously, that means there's going to be less shows. I have thought about this, and it's not really a solid enough, idea yet in my mind. I would like to see, or I would like to do potentially more games, just like during the week or stuff like that. Problem is, it is kind of hard to schedule. I mean, even during the NFL and college games, that's difficult because that's pretty much my weekends. I will say this. I like doing the live game reactions. Those are a lot of fun. A lot of people like them. That's people come out to those. That's how we get a lot of subscribers and a lot of new viewers to show up. Look, the Pistons are playing good, playing well. Right now they're in the play-in. The Red Wings, maybe if they can try to keep the record that they've got going, although kind of in a bit of a losing streak right here. Maybe they'll sneak in, make the playoffs. Maybe we'll do some live reactions to those games. And the Tigers are coming up here in a couple of months. And I think the biggest story is probably Michigan State basketball. So let me tell you this. I'll say this. Obviously, I can't do like the first round of games because those games are in the middle of the day, and I gotta work. I gotta work. Some people work for a living. I'm one of them. But if Michigan State basketball can make a run there, definitely keep an eye out for those games for sure. Maybe Big Ten conference tournament. Maybe keep an eye out for those. But I know those games are also sort of in the middle of the day. So again, all of this is tentative. But either way, I didn't really get a chance to do this at the end of the last game because emotions. I do want to thank everybody who did come out to those live broadcasts. Even amongst the losses, those games are a lot of fun. I love calling games. It's, a dream of mine to be able to actually call a real game. I know it's never going to happen, but it's a lot of fun. I appreciate you guys for listening in. especially when you have the option to listen to actual professional broadcasters on TV that you come in and hang out with me. So as awful an ending as the season was, and as much of a failure as it was, I believe, I did enjoy at least spending most of that time with you guys. So appreciate it. We'll be back next week. We'll talk the Super Bowl because the matchup will be set at that point. Maybe we'll talk some Michigan State basketball. I don't know. I don't know. We got some Michigan State basketball games coming up that are going to be pretty big, and Michigan State has won 11 games in a row. They might actually do something this year. So I don't know. We might talk about that. Either way, have a good rest of your night, everybody, and I'll talk to you next Tuesday. See you later. Good night. See you later.